and welcome back to Shelf Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of female founders bringing their product-based businesses to retail shelves. I'm your host, Roberta, and today is going to be another amazing solo episode. I'm going to be talking today about something that I am extremely passionate about, and that is competitive shopping, and really why you need to study the shelf before you pitch, and really even before you decide which retailers are the right fit for your product or your brand. Most founders make the mistake of pitching their product without even really studying the shelf. I mean, I've definitely been pitched brands where they haven't even been into the store ever to really understand or know if their product makes sense to be on shelf. If you don't know what's already in your category, a buyer is going to know instantly. And that really is a red flag for a lot of buyers because it means that you're not passionate about the retailer that you're choosing for your products to be in, and you don't understand their customer demographic or their needs. In today's episode, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to shop your own category, identify gaps, and position your product as the solution retailers need. I've sat in the buyer's chair for years, and I can tell you competitive shopping is one of the most underrated steps in preparing for retail success. I mean, buyers even do competitive shopping all of the time and just seeing what's on shelf. So first, I want you to make a list of all of the retailers that you want your products to be in. So you can have a hit list of the retailers that you need to go in. So you can't just do competitive shopping in one retailer. You really need to go to each and every one that you're considering because each and every one is different in regards to their layout, their price point range, how they communicate and showcase products and assortment to consumers. And you need to understand that, one, to determine okay, this was my dream retailer, but now that I've gone in and competitively shopped, it's not my dream retailer anymore. It doesn't align with maybe my price structure. It doesn't align with the product that I'm delivering. Or, you know what? I went in there and the consumers that shop that store aren't the consumers that buy my product. So once you have that list, let's start with the first store. So this time we're going into stores and we are not shopping. We are going in with a mission, and that mission is to identify where our product will be placed in store and if it will stand out, be a differentiator, and does it make sense to be in this retail store. So you're going to want to go in the store. You want to go over to the category in which your product would potentially or will live once you get that yes from the buyer. Once you're there, you want to look to see where it's placed. When you look at a shelf and you're standing in front of it, what buyers and retailers call premium placement is really at that eye level shelf. So if you're looking straight as a consumer, what you're seeing head on, a little bit above, a little bit under is really premium placement. They call it that because when a consumer comes in, they don't have to look way down, below or super high above. What they're looking at is typically what their eyes are drawn to, and in most cases, what they're going to look at first to buy. So you want to look to see, is your category even in a premium placement position? That is a small indicator as well. Say, for example, you have a peanut butter brand and you go into a grocery store and all of the peanut butter is on the bottom shelf. That indicates that for that retailer, that category is not of critical importance in regards to what they're delivering to their consumer. So it can kind of give you insight too to say, I don't know if they're going to be looking for a new peanut butter brand because right now they have it positioned as lowest priority. So you want to look to see where it's placed. You also want to look to see the pricing tiers. So what is the price points that range within the category in which you would be having your product sit? Is your product priced at $7.99 and the price range of, let's go back to peanut butter, is between $4.99 and $9.99? $7.99 then feels right? It seems like that's something typically a consumer would purchase here. If your product was priced at $19.99 and you saw the price ranges between $4.99 and $9.99, you may want to think about whether your product would make sense to go into this store. Maybe your product is premium. Maybe it's a premium peanut butter, but the assortment that currently exists isn't premium. For that consumer that shops peanut butter in the store, they may not want to spend an extra, at most $10 in order to purchase your peanut butter. And especially if you're a new brand, you may want to think about, maybe I'm in Walmart comp shopping, but maybe my product should be in Whole Foods. So think about that price point. Definitely, there are times in which people adjust their retails in order to be more aligned to the retailer that you're going in. But you want to think about, number one, the cost. Are you still making money if you were to take down that retail to be more in alignment? Number two, what about the other retailers that you're going to? Are you prepared to be at that retail at all of them? Because, of course, people are going to want to be competitively priced. So, definitely take a look to understand what price points are, because that really connects to the price point in which consumers are willing to pay at that retail store. You're also going to want to look at the formats to see what do people typically want. Say, for example, you have a multivitamin and you see that the retailer that you in, they have tablets, they have capsules, they have liquids, but maybe they don't have gummies. And your brand is a multivitamin gummy brand. That could be a differentiator for you and something you can call out when you are having that conversation with the retail buyer or even probing them to try to get contact and relationship with them. Hey, I noticed you don't have gummy vitamins. Gummy vitamins in the industry is up 50%. I have the best tasting on the market. Those are things that you can lead into as you're having to look to engage and have early conversations with buyers on bringing your product in. If the products in your category typically have different flavors, maybe that's a lead in for consumers. You want to look to see what flavors they currently have. Are any of the flavors that you have in your assortment different and unique that you can add value to the current assortment that exists? If so, that's something you can speak about again when you're talking to retailers. So next time you're in your retailer of choice, step back and really notice the patterns. Is there a story to how these products are laid out? What's the price point range? How are they positioned? Are they in that premium placement? Are they more at the bottom and could potentially not be a key focus for that retailer? What are the flavors? If your category has flavors, what are the formats in which they have? And then try to understand how your product would fit in and be a differentiator. A quick tip is to take photos if you can. I know some stores are really picky about things like that, but sometimes it's good to take a photo and go back home and review it as well, because you may not be able to capture everything while you're in that store, especially if it's a busy day. Also, talked about that premium placement in the aisle, but also go to see if any products in the category that you're in are on any of the end caps or any of the in aisle displays, because that can also give you an indicator of what that retailer is really standing for and what brands they're really going after, what categories they're really supporting. Number two, you're going to want to identify the key players here. So look at who's dominating the shelf. Are they legacy players? Are there emerging brands that are new and breaking through? And then how much space are they occupying? Are they on average showcasing 3 SKUs of every brand? Maybe the legacy players have a bigger space of maybe 8 SKUs, but the newer brands have 3. This can also be an indicator for you to understand how many SKUs you should propose once you do have that conversation with the retail buyer. If typically they are, showcasing 3 SKUs within these newer brands, I would venture to lean around what you're seeing on shelf. You don't want to give too big of an assortment, but you definitely don't want to give too small, right? So I would try to stay in the middle there. And going back to a latter podcast episode where I talked about making sure that you're creating that curated assortment to showcase and show the retailer what you feel is the right assortment to be in that store, you're going to want to curate that to be in alignment around the number of SKUs that make sense to be on shelf there. Number three, spot white space and gaps. You have to look at what's missing. So, first step is definitely identify and see what's on the shelf, but then you want to think about what is not on the shelf. What's missing when it comes to flavor, formats, consumer needs that are not being met? How can you be a differentiator in this space and stand out? That's definitely something you're going to want to lead with. And so you need to understand by going to stores what's missing. White space is really gold. It's where your product becomes the answer buyers didn't even know they were looking for. This is opportunity to drive in new consumers into an area that currently they don't capture. Think about Mika Shino on episode 29. She's the founder of Mochi Gummies and how she discovered no one had mochi gummies on shelf. It was her magic sauce to get it on the shelf of Whole Foods. They were so excited to have this different format of a mochi in a trending category that they jumped on the opportunity for her to be on the retail shelves, even though she didn't even have final packaging. So think about how you can be a differentiator. Think about the opportunities of white space and how you can fill it and lead with that when you're having those conversations. Number four, evaluate packaging and messaging. While you're looking on the shelf, you want to see what catches your eye in the first 3 seconds. Pay attention to colors, fonts, major callouts on the packaging. As you know, being a consumer yourself, I'm sure when you're walking down those aisles in stores, you are quick to identify what you want and what you don't want. And how you do that in most cases is looking at the front of the package. So check to see, are the brands calling out low sugar, sustainability, maybe unique packaging? Maybe you see in your category that all of the products within that space have a blue background in their packaging. And blue is the color that consumers typically connect to that specific product. You can go down the blue route, or you can be a differentiator in that space and stand out with something unique and different. That definitely brings a differentiator, but in some cases, it can be a deterrent, right? Because consumers are already having their mindset that when I see blue, this is the type of products that I'm looking for. So it's good, number one, to understand what that looks like, to then make a decision how you want to show up and showcase on shelf. If your packaging doesn't pop and tell your story fast, you're going to blend in. And blending in on the shelf is really the kiss of death, especially when you're a new brand. You want to have opportunity for consumers to consider you when they're looking on shelf and deciding what they want to purchase. Number five, analyze promotions and brand support. Okay, so buyers don't just want products to sit on the shelf, of course, right? They want partners who drive sales. That is the most important part, right? Great product, unique, different, going to drive traffic and going to drive sales. So you want to really notice the promotions that are happening in the store. Do they typically BOGO 50? Do they have two for deals? Maybe they have everyday pricing. What's their pricing cadence? And if they are heavily promoted, are you able to support those promotions? In most cases with retailers, you as a vendor would actually fund all promotions. So is that something that you financially can handle? I mentioned looking at end caps to see what categories that they're feeling bullish about and they're really leaning into. But looking at end caps is also a great example to understand how other brands are positioning products on shelf. What kind of signage are they using? What are some main callouts that they're putting on that signage? Do they have off shelf placement in any capacity? Are there QR codes that are needed in this category and utilized in order to tell a deeper story online? If you're not really prepared to support your product, buyers know your velocity will suffer and they're going to replace you with a brand that really is going to invest. But in order for you to understand if you can play, you have to understand what the layout is. You have to have an early understanding of what promotions look like. Of course, as you have the conversation with retail buyers, you'll have opportunity to ask a little bit more in depth to understand their cadence. Maybe they have BOGO 50 promotions 6 times a year, right? And then you can kind of take that back and evaluate if it's something you can participate in. But not participating in promotions can definitely lead to lost sales, as those are great avenues in order to drive trial and new consumers. So, to wrap it up, competitive shopping isn't about copying competitors, it's about understanding the landscape, finding the gap, and positioning your product as the solution. Also, being a differentiator. And in those meetings, being able to talk about how you're different and unique and how you can bring new opportunities, new traffic, new consumers to that space. So before you send that pitch email, go study your shelf. I promise it's going to transform how you talk about your product to buyers. If you found this helpful, which I hope you did, share this episode with a fellow founder and don't forget to subscribe to Shelf Talk so you can be the first to hear the newest episodes.